So good evening. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us for our fourth interactive webinar in our series, How to Build a Successful Allied Health Practice. So tonight's session will look at what makes a practice unique, how to stand out from the crowd, and how to communicate your unique service proposition. So my name is Charles Broadfoot and I'm a project officer with the PHN, and also joining me online from the PHN is my colleague Sandy Vincent. Sandy is a professional development and scholarship officer who's just joined the education team. So before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the First Peoples and traditional custodians of all the lands in which we are meeting on, and pay my respects to elders past, present and those emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge that I am coming to you from a Awabakal country. So like our other sessions, tonight's session is being recorded, and the recording and the PowerPoint slides will become available within the next couple of days in our education library on our website. So if I could ask you to keep your microphones on mute during the presentation. If you do have a question for Marcus, I would encourage you to use the raise hand icon. So this is a little reactions icon. It might be in the top right hand corner of your screen, or you might find it in a toolbar down the bottom in the middle. So if you click that, I'll invite you to unmute, turn your camera on and ask your question. But of course, alternatively, you can just type your questions in the chat and I can read these out for you. So to make the session more interactive, we will be using polls on Slido again. And of course, we'd love you to participate and know that your answers are anonymous. So I would recommend doing this now. You'll see on your screen there, we have the QR code. So if you just scan that with your phone or tablet, that'll take you through to Slido. Alternatively, you can go to slido.com, so SLIDO, and then enter our event code. So our event code tonight is AH4, so Allied Health. So stands for Allied Health and then the number 4. In a moment, I will also just post that Slido link into the chat box. So we also will have our evaluation survey on Slido. So please complete this if you would like a certificate of attendance. And of course, we really appreciate any feedback that you can give us. So it's now my pleasure to introduce our presenter for this evening and for our series, Marcus Croak. So Marcus has been a business coach since 2005, which was a natural progression from owning businesses and being employed across many areas, including retail, importing, wholesale, transport and education. Marcus has evolved his skills to coaching numerous business owners to become successful leaders of high performance teams. So thanks again for joining us, everyone. And if you have any questions for me, please just pop them in the chat. But I'll hand over to you, Marcus, to start the presentation.
Thanks, Charles. And I've just noticed as I'm looking in that I've got still turning purpose into profit, and tonight is actually turning purpose into patience. So last time we looked at the profitability. It's all about profitability, but this is about people coming into your practice and how to get them to become patients of yours in the practice. So welcome, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with you again in session 4 of this series. So these sessions all should stand alone. They're designed so that they should make sense in and of themselves. They also probably make more sense altogether, but you can just do them one by one and they will make sense along the way. So today, this is what we're going to do, the profit for purpose formula. So we looked at that last time, which I refer to as the 5 ways. So I'll keep using general business terminology as well. You'll see that along the way, but then we can transfer the principle, the nomenclature into allied health to make it make sense. So we're going to actually review that profit for purpose formula and have a look at the next steps that are coming along. We're going to look at the idea of the unique selling proposition and guarantee. That's the how do I stand out from the crowd? How do I differentiate myself, basically? And we'll see in that we're going to go through some examples and then make the point of why that's good for you, whether you're using it highly commercially or you're using it to make sense, make your practice run better and give better deliverables for your patients. We'll have a look at case studies. One in particular I'll look at from the commercial world, and we can talk about one that I know of without giving away too many details from Allied Health. Prems comes into that, Prems and Proms comes into this, so we'll have a look at that. Testimonials, not that it's not asking you for testimonials or giving you testimonials. It's an interesting area when it comes to health and what's considered medical about not being able to give testimonials. So we're looking at, well, how do you make that work for you? How can you get testimonials? And then we'll look at actually developing that unique selling proposition and guarantee in your business. You should all have had the quick USP, I call it, the one pager, to get you an idea and thinking about some of the things we might consider going along. So that's what we're going to do tonight. I really encourage you tonight, in our hour-long lunch and learns, we've been focused more on delivering because of the time frame. We've got that extra time tonight. Love to have you type in the chat or come off mute and ask me some questions as we go along. There's a huge amount of material, as always, that can be covered in these topics, and it would be great to make it as relevant to you as possible. And just a reminder that the next session in the series is called The Efficient Practice, Home in Time for Dinner, which I know a lot of people in health, as they do in all businesses, keep working long hours, and we want to make sure that you have the life that you deserve. Just a couple of things there. Download. So I will tell you, I've got a full USP document, which is a great starting point for any marketing and for getting to understand your practice, your business, who the people are that you deal with. To get that, now you just email kcv@marcuscrowick.com.au or .com, it doesn't matter, it's all the same, and she will get that to you, okay? And you can fill it in. Appointments with me, again, if you're going through that and you have some questions for me, you want to spend 20 minutes for me, it's no obligation, totally free. It's part of, you know, what we're doing in here is to give you that better advice. So it's just a matter of emailing me. You don't need to do Calendly links, which I have, but you know, it's easy. Just contact me and we can arrange that for you along the way. So we are talking about USP. So we do now come to that first QR code. If you can get that open, hopefully you've already got it there. And we're asking, do you have any guarantees in place? Now, a guarantee might be thought of as, if I don't do the job, I'll give you your money back for free, or if I don't do this, I'm going to do something else. Okay, so do you have that in your practice or not? So any form of guarantee, really, about delivering on what you say you're going to do, or in some other form. We're going to talk about that because it might seem strange. It's like the testimonials. You can't guarantee things. We understand that. You can't go along to somebody in the that's classed in the medical field and give a guarantee about the outcome that's going to happen as a result of the treatments that you give, medications, whatever. You're just not allowed to do that. But there are things that you can guarantee, and that's what we really want to look at tonight. So how we've gone? 60% yes, it's 5. I'm one of those, and 40% no. Okay, terrific. Anyone that said yes want to let me know what their guarantee is? That'd be great, either in the chat or just come off and mute quickly. Charles can do that. Just stick your hand up and let me know. Or in a second, that would be good. I'm not good at Microsoft Teams, so there's a chat there. Charles, I'll ask you to read those out if you can, because I'm afraid if I click on it, I'll lose on my multiple screens where things are actually up to. So we will be looking at the guarantees. They're actually, I love unique selling propositions and guarantees. And the reason I love them is more to do with what they can do for your business, your practice, and how well it functions and how well you can deliver, how well you can give your team members expectations, standards, processes to follow, then in some ways it is about actually gaining those new patients into your business, or converting them into your practice, or converting them into patients. So there we go, 60%, has that changed? 67, that's great. I mean, that's really interesting, and I'd really love to know what some of those guarantees might be in your practice. So if you can put them in the chat, or again, if you'd like to come off mute at any time, please interrupt tonight. Again, whilst we've got lots of material, I really want to make this about, you know, you, and having a discussion with you if that comes up, to help you out. whatever question you ask, like all things, the question you ask, you'll find that other people, even if they haven't thought of the question, there'll be great information in there for them. So please do along the way.
So we have had Damien pop his in the chat, Marcus. So
Yep.
Damien said, we guarantee total satisfaction. If you are not 100% happy with your treatment or management plan, please contact within 14 days and you will be reviewed free of charge.
Beautiful. Okay, that's fantastic. And we can, with Damien later on, we can talk about how that works, or at any time. And in my mind, the phrase is tighten it up. So to give you the idea of USP and guarantee, the simple one that people remember is the old Domino's pizza, 30 minutes or it's free. Now, whilst that offer isn't out there, they still have processes and standards in their business about time frames that pizzas have to be delivered, have to get out the door, all those sorts of things. And they're a good example. There's case studies within that group about what a difference it's made to how the business operates in many, many different ways. Particularly, people don't think of what difference that's made to the employees of the business. One franchise owner in California that has many of them, and how he enforced that when it was around to make a difference. So that's fantastic. Love to hear it. Satisfaction guarantee. For those on the Central Coast, have a look at well, anywhere, I suppose, at Loyal IT Solutions, loyalit.com.au, IT company on the Central Coast, and you'll see they've got 5 reasons to use them on their website. And one of those is a satisfaction guarantee as well too. It's a nice model, and as we've talked about before, I think I mentioned them before about teamwork and how they bring the values of the owners through to their team, to their clients, to the community. So it's a great example, and the reasons aren't made up from a point of strictly to be more commercially successful. It's just who they are. So first thing we said we do is have a look back at the profit for purpose formula. It fits in a 6-step system. This 6-step system I use comes from Action Coach. Mastery is about getting the numbers right. So you think of your profession, your vocation, you have to get the fundamentals right before you can go on and do you things. So the same thing in your practice, and in any business, we have to get some fundamentals right. Fundamentals are, where are you going? So what's the direction of the business? What are you trying to grow? Are you trying to grow multi-sites? Are you trying to grow thousands of patients as part of your patient list? What is it? Where are you going? And personally is really, really important there. That's the most important thing, actually, because then you have to grow the practice to suit the life that you want. Otherwise, it takes over and you have no life. That's part of what next time is about. How the numbers working in the business, how you're controlling time, that is what next time is about, and the basic deliverable in the business in terms of customer service. We're at the niche stage, which is defined as no price competition, meaning people are coming to you for what you do and what you offer. They're not coming to you because you're the cheapest person out there. Doesn't mean that you can't be. That's part of strategy out there, but it means you shouldn't have to be worrying about it. You shouldn't have to be doing deals to make things cheaper in order to get people in the door. And that's the wrong, I'd say, whilst you might want to do that, and it's okay if that's the strategy, if the only reason, if that doesn't suit your business, if it's not part of the strategy, it can ruin what you're doing and actually not deliver for your patients. Leverage is ultimately about systems. It means more than that. Team, obviously building the team. Synergy is about the well-oiled machine where everything just sings, the harmony of the orchestra, the synchronicity of the orchestra, and results is about taking what you've achieved and turning it into more, doing more. So the formula is very simple. It's based on the idea that there are fundamental principles in all businesses and that you build Lexus, the Camry there, and the GS300, that is based on the same chassis, many of the same components in them. One ends up being the luxury car, one ends up being the everyday car for people. But the same basics go into it. And that's the same in the formula that we use to run the business. And here it is, the summary of this. If you take what's happening in your business, the number of leads, so that's inquiry. So again, I said I was going to use just general business terminology in here that we use for everyone. We take the principle and then we adapt or adopt that into your business, and work out how it works. So the number of leads, how many inquiries are you getting is what that's about. The conversion rate, how many of those people, what percentage, what rate of those people turn into customers, or in the case of health, patients. The number of transactions is repeat business. How often does a patient come back to see you? Do they come back every month? Do they come, once a year? What is it in there? The average dollar sale, what is the spend in the business? How much does it cost them to come and see you each time? How much income do you generate every time they come and see you? And then the profit margins, how much do you make out of that interaction, out of each interaction and the interactions overall? You'll notice what I've read out are the blue parts, not the red parts, because the blue parts, the blue words, are the drivers. They're the things that I can take action to change, to control. I don't control how many customers I have. I can control how many inquiries I have and how well I do at turning those inquiries into my patients. So the blue is what we're working on. The basic idea when we put the numbers in is that if I just work at increasing each part of this 10%, I make a massive increase overall. So 46% increase in revenue, 61% increase in profits if you increase 5 areas by 10%. Now, what we looked at last time, we're going to come up with in a moment, we looked at, whilst this is in basically chronological order of your customer journey, they inquire, they turn into a customer, they come, they spend money with you, they come back time and time again and you make money. We don't work on it in that way because from an efficiency point of view, we make more money by, number one, working on your profit margins, working out how do you make more out of everything you do through all sorts of measures there. Could be if you use bandages in your practice, do you need to buy a different sort of bandage and get a better price? Do you buy them in bulk or one by one? There's all sorts of ways we work on these things there. One of the big ways, as we mentioned in the earlier one on money is not wasting money. At home, that would be, do I really need 5 streaming services? Or can I get by without, with 2? There's non-essential things that when you examine your finances, you find. So when we change them by 10% each, and it doesn't mean that that's all you're doing, it's to give you the idea that this is compounding, just like the interest on your home loan, which is why in the old days it cost 3 times as much to pay off your home as it did to pay for it. Work a little bit in each area. It doesn't have to be hard and you can get some big results. Okay, so we're up to that next question. We're going to look at the first 3 and then come back to it. Another slider. Which area of the formula are you currently focused on improving? I'm going to leave that there for a sec, just in case you need the QR code. It should just come up straight away for you. The examples will be there, and they come from over here, the 5 points over here, the 5 drivers of driving your profitability. Okay, a nice simple formula. So if you can put that in there, what is it? And it's the number one area. I understand you might be working on all of them, but is there a number one area that you're working on?
Looks like there's a Jody in the chat.
Sorry, was there something in the chat?
We do have a question, Marcus.
Yeah. Yeah,
did you want to
please.
answer that now, or?
Sure.
It's, I guess, while people are still voting, might be a good time to jump in. It's from Jody. It's just in relation to the guarantee original Slido question. So Jody said, could you have standard processes that could be marketed as a guarantee? For example, each client will be offered XYZ, or we will consider XYZ for each consult, therefore a point of difference, rather than being linked to a financial reimbursement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the things I'd love you to talk to me about that later on, Jody, when we get into those, because it is one of the things I hope we talk about. It is like prems in particular. You know, what are the experiences of clients and patients? I'll keep referring them to as clients. Forgive me. That's what I'm used to more than patients in everyday business talk. What are their experiences? So what can you was satisfaction guarantee. So he hasn't specified that, but you know, is there something about that satisfaction that's not necessarily about the actual health result? Because I find when I was reading about prems, reading some of the documents on it, you know, I think there's a lot there that's not related to the actual health outcome directly, let me say, because I believe they are related all indirectly. So what have we got? Profit margin, great to see that. First place you should start is your profit margin. More on profit margin, conversion rate, leads winning. Cool, excellent. So leads and conversion rate is really what we're talking about tonight. So that's fantastic to get into that. But let's have a review of some of these other things that were in here. We'll talk a little bit, I think, about the others as we go through. Again, I'd say margin's the first thing you look at, because it shouldn't cost you any money to work on it, and you get big wins instantly. That's why my book was about instant cash flow. Like, how do you put the bank money in the bank now? And a lot of people worry about the idea of profit. You know, profit can be seen as a dirty word in our society. It's not just in allied health, I promise you. It's probably the number one factor working against people in business is their idea of profit, and it's subconscious how we think about it. So working on making more money out of what we do is a really, really good thing to do. There's a lot of mindset issues come up with that. But again, it's looking at the prices, understanding the numbers in your business to see whether you actually are charging enough. Most of the people I work with, and we put prices up, it's not about how do we gouge more out of the people that are out there. It's the business owner understanding that their expenses and what it costs to run a business. I tell you, for tradies nowadays, if they're on the road, they actually have to be at about $100 an hour to make a living out of it. You multiply that out, it sounds like a lot of money, but by the time they pay for the dual cab and the other things that go into it, the employees out there, I calculated for a conveyancer a few years ago, you know, a $25 employee was actually costing them about $41 an hour. So by the time you apply other expenses there, it costs you a lot to have people employed. I did an exercise with a solicitor on the coast a number of years ago when he was charging $25 to send a letter out, and we all balk at that. When we did the exercise on how much it cost him $23 to send the letter when you apply all the costs that go into the business. So it's really critical that we understand that and get that right. So number one place to work on, and then what you'll find, give you the idea, if you actually, when you work it out, you might find that in reality, what you're making is $10 from a patient interaction. That's really what you make from all the money that goes through. Maybe you actually make $10. So it's not like you have to double your price to double your profit, but you can put your price up $5, you've increased your profit 50%, because theoretically there's no further expense into, you know. So we do a lot of that to start with, of just getting the numbers right and going, what's the tweak? That's what the 5 ways is about to start with before you move on. So the amount you've made from each transaction. I'd like you to put in the chat what you've actually done in the margin. The other thing is the average dollar sale, the amount generated from each transaction. And last time we were talking about, do you have the list of items that go with the healthcare that you're providing? So maybe a physio, I don't know, supplies some bandages, or maybe you have some cream that people should put on to help treat the whatever it is they've done. I've got bad knees, maybe there's some cream to put on those things. What's the list? It's like going to Bunnings to paint, and you need brushes, a drop sheet, something to clean it with, a tray for the roller, different rollers. There's all the things that you need to paint. What do you have in there? Have a look at that. That's not, I made the point last time, that's about fulfilling your purpose. If Bunnings' purpose is to make sure that people can easily access everything they need to do the job, then they need to also offer people all of those items. Otherwise, people are running backwards and forwards to Bunnings, not getting the job done. If I'm coming to you as a physio, let's say to get some work done on my knee, and you do some exercise with me, but you don't say, there's the option to have a bandage or some cream, or supply me with the sheet that says, here's how you do the exercises, then maybe you're not fulfilling your purpose. So it's a lot more than that. Again, I ask you to share in chat, what have you done around that? The other thing we worked on was the number of transactions, the number of separate times a patient deals with you. And this isn't about just making people come back for no purpose. One of the things we talked about was maybe they've finished their treatment plan, has the treatment plan included that 6 months later they should be coming back to see you. Part of it's not worrying. One of the points I made was, it's actually not our decision whether it's good value for people or not. It's up to them to decide. It's up to us to offer it and say, here's an option for you, and I think it would be useful, or not. I'm also one for saying to people, if it's not useful, refer to it as downselling. Go, look, you could do this, but I don't think it's necessary. That's fine as well. But ultimately, the option is up to them to work on. This is about the first part of the formula. What you have to do is attract people to you. Now, you might do that in different ways, and lead generation, the number of leads, the question we ask is, well, how do you generate them? How do you generate the inquiries to you? So we talk about attracting people to you. We talk about converting those people. Attraction's about lead generation. Convert is the conversion rate in the formula. And then we've also talked about that repeat business, the number of transactions that takes place. This all comes down to that idea of marketing. And in general, I worked with a travel agent years ago, and he's probably the first person that stuck it in my mind. He owned a number of Harvey World travel franchises, and he said, people make the mistake of thinking that Harvey World Travel is in the travel business. They're in the marketing and sales business. They just happen to market and sell travel. And in business, as a commercial, profitable enterprise, we say the same thing. Business is a marketing and sales exercise that helps you attract people to deliver on your purpose. It doesn't have to be separate. In fact, it should be doing that. Mike Michalowicz, who wrote the book Profit First that we talked about in the money session, the financial session, says marketing your business. He says it to us, I'm a Profit First master. That's a group of people associated with that, and sort of the highest level of that. There's a small group of us in Australia. Mike, the author and instigator of the system, does calls with us, and one of those, he said, marketing your business is the kindest thing that you can do, because our purpose, coming from him, is eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. Because lots and lots of small business owners out there, and big business owners, I might tell you, are running around, working hard, not seeing their families, and they're still living in an entrepreneurial poverty. So the idea is, to fill that purpose of let's eradicate that, we need to tell people that we're out there. We need to have that passion to make that happen. So marketing is the business you're in, but marketing is this: communication and education. Marketing is conveying a message to people and teaching them something about us. It's not simply advertising in terms of, running a Facebook ad, running an ad on TV, something in the newspaper. What am I communicating and how am I educating? How am I informing people about what I do? Communication, by the way, our definition of that is true communication is the response you get. So if I think I'm communicating something, but I'm getting a different response, I've told my child to go and sit somewhere, but they're throwing water on the roof. Obviously, the communication's not working too well. Think about that with team members. Educating them. What information am I giving them to help them and to draw out, as we always say, the definition of the word talks about. So that's marketing. What are you communicating and what are you educating? It comes down to this. It takes place well before the first purchase and continues well after the last sale. I should have made this a Slido question. I'd love some chat responses. Who's the number one person that you think you market to in your business? Love someone to put that in the chat or come off and have a chat. I can see there's a chat thing there, but again, I dare not touch it.
Liz has answered already, Marcus, and she's put doctors.
Doctors, okay. Yep.
Mel has answered parents.
Yep. Okay, I'll give you my response. So my response is the first person that you market to is yourself. And that comes back to the purpose. Do you believe in it? I was with a client today and we're working on the thing called the identity iceberg, how he saw himself. He happens to be a marketer. I am a marketer. I'm an outstanding marketer. What's the result? You might be aware of the identity iceberg. There's the behaviors that we see in the results. And then there's all the thoughts and feelings. There's all the stuff under the surface. What are the skills? What are the beliefs to be a marketer? So the first person he has to market to is actually himself. He has to see himself in that way, believe in himself, believe in what he does, believe in the outcomes he gets. And part of this for me, if it's that, is so I had a choice today. So I'm working at home. I've got an office at home. I don't have an office out there. I can put on my tracky dacks and tracksuit tops, and some days I do. But today, dealing with clients, coming on here, I chose to put a shirt on, a business shirt on. So I'm marketing to myself that this is who I'm being for the day. So I look at this marketing to myself and see most allied health practices, most health practices wear some sort of uniform. Now, and I love uniforms, but don't get me wrong, I don't think a uniform has to necessarily be truly uniform in that everyone wears the same thing. In coaching, when I started, the uniform was a dark suit with a business shirt on and a tie, black leather shoes. That was our uniform that we went out with. It was the same idea. We didn't go out in t-shirts and shorts. Many allied health practices, I think, men might wear a shirt like this nowadays, or a polo shirt, maybe with a logo on it. So putting that on, getting it actually ready the night before, or knowing what you're going to put on the night before, is actually marketing to yourself that this is who I'm being and what I'm going to do tomorrow. Rather than sticking on your board shorts when you're going along to do some podiatry, the board shorts might be saying to you, I'm in beach attire. It can have that subconscious effect on you, and the same thing for your team. And again, it doesn't mean that you have to live in the, Victorian era or whatever about what a uniform might be. It's just, what's it saying to people? What's it saying to you, to your team, to your staff about it when you go there? And then there's all the other things that go into that as well, the decor of your place. And again, it doesn't mean that it has to look like a billion-dollar law firm in New York or whatever, but it has to be, I suppose, authentic to you is one of the things that it should be. So have a think about that, and have a think about, what are you communicating to your patients? Again, I'd like to hear from people. Well, I've got that actually as a Slido coming up in a sec, I think. Yeah, we'll finish this. What are you communicating to your patients? When do you communicate? So that's like, you know, the night before when I put on my clothes. Is it when they come to me? Is it the physical thing of do I email, send letters, all those things? How do you communicate with your clients? So that's a repeat business type thing. It's a how are you? So I've actually never got from a health provider any contact in between having an appointment with them, and it's up to me to make the appointment. So it's really, you know, there's ways there that you can encourage people. And again, you've just got to think, is it fitting in with my purpose to do that? Are you helping them by being in contact with them? Here's a few ideas for you. People who are marketing, there's a difference between this, what these people do, or where these people have got to, and where we are. Anyone guess the difference? Anyone put in chat for me what the difference is between these people and many other businesses out there? I'd love to know. I take it everyone knows who McDonald's is. I take it everyone knows who Coca-Cola, Apple, Harley-Davidson, and I think that's Louis Vuitton is. Louis Vuitton's one of my favorite ones, actually. Everyone knows is the key. People talk about, I want to become a brand, and these people are a brand. The difference between a brand and everyone else is when you see that brand, you will have an emotional reaction to McDonald's. Whether it's conscious or not, they've done enough that they don't have to tell you a lot about them. You see the logo. One of my things is logos. Logos don't make the company. You know, the company has to build the logo so it becomes well known. Remember, the Golden Arches weren't McDonald's initial logo in this form. If you go and watch the history of them. So these are brands. We recognize them. We have a reaction to them. We know what they're about, or at least our sense of what they're about. Their marketing and education has led us to have a belief about who they are. Louis Vuitton is not just a high-priced brand. You know, Louis Vuitton made in the days of going around on carriages, made trunks that people could has been carried through. It's very interesting to study these companies. Big point there, they carry an emotional connection with them. And then what they do, they actually do this. Apple and Harley-Davidson may be more even than the others. So this is called the ladder of loyalty. When you get your marketing right, you go from suspect down the bottom, might be somebody who's in your target market. Are you aware of your target market? Prospect, we know who they are. Shopper, they've bought from us. Customer, they've bought from us again. Memberships are on the rise, by the way. I'm reading 2 books at the moment about memberships. It's not just about having a loyalty program. It is, are you really working on them becoming members of your community? Very, very big. So what are you doing to engage people and make that happen? An advocate, you know, talks about you, but a raving fan we define as someone who does the selling for you. If you go back to these groups, Apple people, raving fans. They will tell you how fantastic Apple is and line up, you know, at night time to buy the first product that comes out of the shop. The same thing happens with Harley-Davidson. You can't buy them like most cars at the moment, but true Harley-Davidson riders ride Harley-Davidsons, and they will tell you about how great the Harley-Davidson is. Louis Vuitton, again, you know, people love the bags because of the quality and will rave about what they are and do the selling for you. So this is a word cloud prep question that's going to come up with the QR code. What are you communicating to patients? What I'm looking for is, what's the word for you? When we look back at McDonald's and Harley-Davidson and Coke, if you thought of a word that described them or an emotion that went along with them, when I'm asking you that about your practice, you know, what are you communicating to patients? Have a think about that. So I'm not saying a newsletter or an email. What's it about? What's the message? What's the emotion when we ask that question? Are there some things, Prems, what's the experience for them? You know, the patient-centered, what's it about? So that's the next question to put into Slido for me, please. A word or a phrase that is, what are you communicating to clients? Ooh. So many words, just pick one. So that's me, possibilities. It's possible. A lot of times people ask me, is it possible in my business? And I say, yes, it's possible if you're willing to take the action and you have the resources to take the action. It is possible. Possibilities, trust, love that. So imagine if your marketing, if that's what you're conveying, that your marketing is geared to conveying trust. Your marketing is geared to, we're here to listen. That's what we do. And the team understands that. Now you're getting to the true culture of the business. We're here, we're about support. We're here about patient care. Love that. That's fantastic. Remember that for standing out from the crowd. Ultimately what those brands do is have an emotional connection. That's what I'm saying. You've just demonstrated with the words there about what that connection can be about and how you stand out from the crowd. We stand out from the crowd by working on, we listen. I love that. That's fantastic. I mentioned last time Dr. Paddy Lund, dentist from Queensland, building the happiness-centered business. Apologies for the quality of the photo there. That's the best I could get online. I'm not quite sure where my copy is to take a photo of it. Get to know our people and their skills. Yeah. So know us. I mean, know us is a community, a membership type thing as well. I love the word community. As I said, I get my clients together every 90 days and you know, we build communities. We're all there about helping one another. So Paddy, in building the happiness-centered business, highly recommend you grab a copy of that book. I think you probably have to go to his website to get it nowadays. You can get a PDF download of it, but that's what he was all about. You know, I'm not having a good life. I don't think the staff are having a good life. How about we build the business around happiness? So that was his thing. He's also got another one, critical non-essentials, that are highly worth reading because that's how he stood out. You know, what did he do? A purpose-built house, no advertising, no phone number, the legally required plaque. But when you go in, your photo on the door of the room you're going into, coffee machine imported from Italy, fine china worth about $1,000 a set. If you want a cup of tea, it gets served to you in that. What I refer to as positioning, so a welcome introduction for him when you become a patient of his, and he takes you through what it's going to be like to be a patient of his, how he deals with you, the fact that he's going to remove all the metal in your mouth and put in you know, the modern materials in your mouth, the fact that he's going to be 30% dearer, more expensive to go to than anyone else, and that you can't just refer someone to him, you have to prove yourself to be a good patient. And then he'll give you an invitation. Now that might sound like a bit of overkill. I talked to a dentist about that recently, but it's a great point of showing how you can make up something about your practice to really stand out. What he got on the Gold Coast was it became that, oh, I go to Paddy Lund type thing. Now that mightn't be your, you know, what suits you, and that's absolutely fine. It's just a way of looking at it. So attracting and converting customers. Let's have a look at a commercial one, and then we can talk about what's going on for you guys. Again, any time along the way, please just hop in here and have a chat. So these guys, BBBK guarantees, bugs. Now they actually, it's not burger, it's Berger, Berger bug killers from southeastern parts of the United States. So Florida, over a couple of states, I think Georgia and somewhere else. They, most recently that I could read, they were doing about $30 million a year. From their guarantee, they were paying out about $300,000, so about 1% they were paying out a year on their guarantee. The company was actually started by bugs many years ago, decades ago, did so well that a national bug killer company bought them out, got rid of the guarantees, did all the things. It's like, why buy a hamburger joint and then turn it into a kebab shop or something? But, you know, they bought the successful business and changed what it did. Then the Sun bought it back in the early 2000s. Harvard Business School did a study on them, which is where I've got the information from, and you can find a little bit about him on YouTube. Have a look. Really interesting business. And if you do want, it's not part of my normal downloads, but if you want me to send you the Harvard Business School report, I'm happy to do that. It's fantastic information. So I don't know if you can read that or not. So what's the specialty? So the first part of standing out from the crowd is, what's your market segment? Who's your target market? Now you might say, well, I'm a podiatrist, so I deal with people that have feet. Okay, but it's breaking it down to be even more specific. So whilst they're bug killers, they work in the hospitality industry. So restaurants, hotels is where they work. Okay. If you, as you read through, you'll see it's about roaches and rodents is what they work on. Guaranteed performance. You do not pay our initial charges until we totally eliminate every roach, rat or mouse nesting on your premises. So that's interesting. They don't just control them, they eliminate them. Don't pay until that happens. If you are ever dissatisfied with our results and want to cancel our service due to a reinfestation, we will refund up to 1 year service charge. So basically that might mean if you've had them for 4 months, because they do contracts with you and you don't want them for the rest of the time, they'll give you back the rest of the money for the service they haven't received, but it reads beautifully. Pay the cost. So if something goes wrong, pay the cost of another exterminator of your choice for up to 1 year. And guaranteed protection. Should one of these things be seen by your guest, we'll pay their bill, send them a letter of apology and invite them back as our guest. Pay all your fines levied against your hotel or restaurant by the health authorities for the presence of the roaches or rats, and should your hotel or restaurant ever be closed by the health authorities solely for the presence of roaches or rodents, Bugs Berger will pay profits lost while you are closed plus $5,000. Whoa, hang on. These guys charge 7 to 10 times the fee of most bug killers in the area. They do a lot more work, which is the essence of what actually takes place here. What I learned from studying them was the requirements that the customer had to put in place to actually get these performances. So it's a bit like terms and conditions. But if they went into your hotel and they didn't like where a doorway was, they might say you might need to move the doorway. They completely clean the place and sterilize it. They come back and do a cleaning service to make sure that it's all being maintained for their contract. So it's not just like they charge 10 times more for exactly the same service. They do a lot more to make sure that you're getting the service of the bug killers and control that you want. But they're an elimination company, as it says on there, not just a control company. So have a think about that. You know, what are you willing to do? So these guys are fantastic at what they do. Stand out from the crowd. And they command about 70% of market share in the areas where they work, by the way. So that's your thing. You know, what's your USP? What is your point of difference? Anyone like to type in the chat or come off and let us know, you know, how do you actually stand out from the crowd? So one of the reasons I joined Profit First was because out there in the world, when I started as a business coach, our problem was we had to explain what a business coach was. Nowadays, it's like so you know, now you've got to differentiate yourself. So one of the things for me was joining Profit First, because I'm the only person that there's only 11 Profit First masters in the country. I'm the only one that comes from business coaching. The others are bookkeepers and a couple of accountants. So I come from the business coaching world in amongst, and I have the action coach backing as well. So it's not that people necessarily care about that, but if I'm talking to somebody, I can talk about Profit First rather than just business coaching, whilst I do all those things out there. So what is your point of difference? Anyone answered for us, Charles?
Yeah, so Liz has typed in expertise and niche area of practice.
Okay, Liz, what's the niche area? Would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, so I'm a hand therapist. So I specialise in injuries and their management. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's only like 2 hand therapy practices on the coast.
Yeah, I love that. That's great, niching down into that particular area. So we do see that in health. Obviously, my eldest brother was an anaesthetist. So, you know, you don't just become a doctor, you can be general practice, and that's a specialty in itself nowadays. I say a lot of the time in Action Coach, its specialty is being general practitioners. So that I love that. It lets you know who you're dealing with. Niching down that further, it could be, you know, hand injuries for people over 40 or under 40 or whatever. Somebody mentioned before, it was in the guarantee we had before about the XYZ. It's a really important thing to remember. This is Schlitz beer. Don't have too many beers before you say it. From, I believe it's Milwaukee. You can probably read it on there. Now they weren't doing as well as they wanted, and this is an old ad. Okay, very old ad. I think it's from a book called Tested Advertising Methods. What they did was have a consultant, nowadays they would have been called a business coach, go through their factory to look at what they did to find out, you know, how they could market their business to reach that #1 status of beer supplier. And as they were going through, they came across this idea that the beer was being cold filtered. You can read it there. I'm happy to send you this if you just email me as well. Again, it's not in the downloads because most people won't necessarily want it. But it says in there, the beer is cooled by dripping over frigid pipes in air as pure as human means can make it. Now, the consultant was astounded by this, said, wow, that's special. We should promote that. And Schlitz was like, but everyone does that. That's how you make beer. But nobody knew about it. So the XYZ thing comes into it. I used to work, they're no longer there. Nikki and Wade Mann ran Roses to Go, also known as A Dozen Roses on the Central Coast, growing hydroponic roses. They now run, is it Jerry Harvey's little cucumber, well, not little cucumbers, up at Summersby. They're the world's leading hydroponic growers up there. And that's how they stand out from the crowd. So he headhunted them. As we went through their production, how they went about doing their business, what we found was they would pick their roses, they would grade them, which would be size, take the thorns off them, cut them, put them into a solution to look after them, because roses didn't like being cut, and put them into basically an ICU, a cold room for a night to let them recover from having been cut off the stem and treated like that. So they put them into a good solution, whatever goes into the solution, and had it as an ICU for 24 hours before they put them on their shop floor. And they would also throw them out after about another 48 hours. That's the time when most roses are getting to most retail shops. And that's the time when they're throwing them out. Now, they grew a special sort of rose. They grew for long life, not scent, because the scent, the actual vapor, is what destroys the rose. So it's good when it's open and it smells beautiful, but it doesn't last. So their story was unique. What Wade did in looking after them, he thought everyone did. And when they went and looked at other people, it was like, no, other people don't do that. They cut them and sell them. The ones from overseas are literally devitalized. The life is removed from them as they're imported, so they last for long enough to give the impression, and then they're gone. Their guarantee became, if it doesn't last 7 days, we'll replace it for free. Actually became a little bit of a bugbear because so many of their customers expected them to last 10 days. But what we did was go back through their process and look for what's the XYZ, what's the Schlitz beer idea that we can actually put out there to the world to tell them about what's going on. So have a think about that in your business. Just going to check some slides here. Okay. I want you to think then back to this. Maybe somebody would like to have a discussion with me, because there's many ways you can stand out. You know, what are you already doing? Maybe you don't realize that it's different to everyone else. So my first point would be, go through the processes that you use, the systems that you use, and actually document it. Get it out of your head, down on paper, whether it's a flow chart or text, whatever works, and then work out, are people doing that? Are other people telling people about that? Because that can be something that you promote. Maybe the trust factor comes out in what you do, and you can promote that or work on that with your staff. Some of the things that have come up. Online booking. Does everyone have online booking? Does that make you stand out? Do reminders coming through make you stand out? Multi-selling. So do you work in a medical centre? Is the practice one with multidisciplines in it, or it's a medical centre with many disciplines in it? Is that something you can promote the practice or the whole centre, so that you become, you know, the one-stop shop by coming to your practice or centre? Plain English. Is what makes you stand out the fact that you do things in plain English? One of the things when I had our coaching tuition business on the Central Coast was we promoted the fact that we explained things in plain English, and people liked it, because talking about x squared and y squared and imaginary numbers and things didn't mean much to people. One of the problems people can have in the health industry is not, excuse me, not understanding the language. And most people will understand. My thesis at university was actually on language in physics, and people at high school level understood the principles of physics. We just used strange words like kinetic energy and potential energy, but nobody had a clue what we were talking about. But they could understand damage done by something going faster. And so do you use plain English? Are you good at explaining? When we come to the testimonials, see, there's a thing. Could you have somebody that says, I love the way so-and-so explained everything to me in language I could understand? Does that break the rules of testimonials in the medical world? Or can you use it? What are some of the other things that, you know, what's come up for you in Prems? Or how many people are actually using Prems, like formally using them, or paying attention to them informally? What are some of the things that come up? Love to know what I'll tell you what it is with tradies in a moment. I'll give you what I call the 3 necessities of niche. You can probably guess. Oh, I'd love to play that game. Is somebody willing to come off and show me their face and talk to me? Who would do that? Anyone?
What about you, Damien? Are you there? Would you like to? Or Liz?
Oh, Liz. Hi, Liz. Thank you. I'm going to unshare then so everyone can see you. Thanks so much for playing, Liz. Yeah, so what would be some of the Prems type things? What are the experiences of patients that you think matter to them?
I think education is key.
Yep.
So I think that is really important, is giving them a level of education that they mightn't have had in other practices about their problem.
So that's like in letting me know, again in plain English, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
And giving them a diagnosis. You know, I think it's happening, and then what we're going to do to help fix it.
Yeah, okay.
And so really communicating and getting their buy-in from the start.
Yeah. So how would you convey that to the public in plain English, that that's what you do?
I guess blogs are always helpful, where you give education about common conditions on your website.
Yeah, so they get the experience of your plain English language. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So we've also started engaging more in Facebook and with education topics.
Yeah.
So that's sort of getting more, you know, you can see, you know, it's engaging more people all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important. I think that's huge, because I would say people make the same complaint about doctors in particular that they do with accountants. It's like, you've got to know the right questions to ask them to get the answer.
So you might have some fracture Fridays and you talk about different types of fractures, or, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And that, I mean, those things actually create a brand for you. So you mightn't become as well known as McDonald's, but people get to know you, and they do start making the connection of, this is the person who teaches us things and things I can understand. So yeah, I think that's a really, really big win. I recently went to the dentist and he was very good. And maybe it's dentistry in particular. He was only a little bit younger than me, but he was very good in letting me know exactly what was happening in language that I could understand, and, you know, what was going on. And I really appreciated that. Made me feel good. Thank you. I'll come back to you in a sec, Liz. Damien, how about for you? What do you think are that is the point of difference for you? What are your customers feeling, thinking, saying?
I think what we do is we listen to them, and we actually ask them before their appointments, before they come to see us, what their expectations are, and what their main sort of areas of concern are.
Okay.
By asking those two separate questions before we even see them, then we're ready to meet those, or actually not meet them, exceed those expectations.
Right.
And also so that we're meeting their needs, and at the end of their appointment, you know, we know that they've had a good experience, because, you know, I suppose we armed ourselves with all the right information before they even came to see us. And we do this with online forms and contact before the appointment. Yeah.
I think again that's fantastic, and I'm just going to share with you now just my screen. This is actually a different, same screen but a different thing. So this is from one of my sales seminars that I do, and it's the starting point. So I talked about the formula takes you through the customer journey, and we go from inquiries to having some interaction that turns them into a customer or patient. That can be split out into many, many steps along the way. But what you're saying there, so you've got the inbound call and or inquiry on the website, whatever it might be, but there's something taking place that they're engaging with you. And then you're basically doing a needs analysis, whether it's filling in a form or you asking them the question. Is that right?
Yeah, once they've, I suppose, decided that we're for them, then they make an appointment, and after they've made the appointment, then we ask them all the questions, so that once they actually get to see us,
So there's something about what you're communicating, and I've looked at your website, that's getting people to make the appointment, and then this strengthens it. The needs analysis in the sales process is actually all about ask questions to find out what it is that the potential customer or patient wants, so that we can understand and deliver what they want, not what we want to start with. So it's part of that conversion rate strategy. One of the things what we do in conversion rate is actually put the sales process in place. What are the steps that somebody has to go through to end up at your practice? And you've put some steps in place and questions along the way. So that, and I would say those questions help build trust. You know, my health provider has actually asked me some questions to understand what's going. So they come along feeling, having that feeling of trust towards you, and you know, the listening that was in the comment before as well. So I think they're great things to do. So fantastic on doing that. Liz, can I get you back on, and I'll ask you this question about tradies, and it might make a point for you. What do you think that tradies need to do to stand out from the crowd, or what would you like them to do? On mute. You're on mute. I'm going to get that t-shirt and sell it. I'll make a fortune.
The on-site encounter with you. or communicate to you very clearly that they're running 5 minutes late, or they'll be there in 10 minutes, or yeah.
Yeah, right. So number one would be turn up, and on time's just a bonus. Yeah. What else would you like them to do?
Give a quote in a timely manner.
Okay. So communication.
So you don't have to chase, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've turned up at your place. What do you want them to do then?
And we want them to be, someone that you can communicate easily with and not feel afraid or intimidated about asking questions.
Yeah. Yep. Fantastic. Damien, any input? What do you think it is that we want out of tradies? Turn up's number one.
Yeah, turn up with all the right tools and all the right equipment, finish the job the first time, clean up after themselves, send an invoice with online payment options.
So there's my first three, and it makes the point. Turn up, on time's a bonus. Do the job correctly the first time. Number three, leave the place better than you found it. So whilst we're talking about these USPs and guarantees, one of the points is, look, you can just look at your processes and you're probably doing something special, or you can inform people about it so that you stand out. Another part of that, you don't have to fly people to your practice in a pink helicopter with champagne to stand out from the crowd. If we take the tradie scenario, and I would expect, my health providers might do a bit better job, but it is turn up, on time is a bonus, do the job correctly the first time, leave the place better than you found it. If they did that, they stand out from the crowd. I'm members of tradies groups, and I can not tell you the number of tradies who complain about other tradies. It's quite amazing. You wouldn't think that. So point again, in your process somewhere, there's probably some gold for you to find about what you do, and there's the what I'll call the logical thing of what you do, the physical thing of what you do, if you like, but then there's the other parts that give people the trust, that show that you're listening. And if you come back to the purpose of your practice and then look at what emotions are attached to that, you'll find some gold in those. And you can ask yourself, well, how do I have a practice that shows that? With yours, the satisfaction guarantee, I need the emotional connection to get satisfaction as well, not just that things are done, which is what Paddy Lund put in place in his practice. People felt cared for. Number one thing that had to happen. I think it was, I can't remember if it was Malcolm Gladwell or Harry Beckwith in their books talked about people getting sued. So in the medical profession, in one of those books, he talks about the fact that the people who didn't get sued were the doctors who people liked, who they built a relationship with, not necessarily the best doctor. Okay, the doctors who were very about how they went about it and didn't build the relationships could do a better job and still get sued because the person was unhappy. So having those relationships is incredibly important. And it was in Harry Beckwith's book called Selling the Invisible. He talks about vets and some research done there, which again showed how they presented themselves made a difference to people's view of how good the vet was. And I think they mainly did it on males. It was a few years ago, but it was things like, the lab coat, a stethoscope, wear a tie. You probably wouldn't do that nowadays because the world's changed. Being handsome was a bonus. You got more points as a vet because you were handsome. So those impressions count with that. Yeah, so have a look at all of those things. Have a look in the prens. Timeliness is huge. I know that can be really hard to guarantee because you don't know exactly what the issue is that somebody's walking in with. But the last time I went to a specialist a few years ago, it was a bit annoying that I waited over an hour to see the specialist and then had a 3-minute appointment, and it took another 2 years for my GP to actually go, I had an allergic reaction to something, we didn't know what, and it ended up being wool, which I had never had a reaction to before. So that, time in health is huge. What are the other experiences that come out of the prems and outcomes? I know you can't guarantee outcomes there. What else have we got down here? So much. USP can be that you bulk build. It can be that you're not bulk build. That's not the people that you're after. Since moving to the Hunter Valley, I love the fact that I go to my bulk build medical practitioner. She's lovely. She's lovely is really important. Guaranteed appointments. No appointment necessary. So you see that in hairdressers. Do you book an appointment? Just cuts. The barber salon, basically, before barbers were so popular, is a no appointment necessary barbershop. Actually started down in I think Miranda Fair as a charity. They did it for charity. Just come in and get your hair cut, and it was so popular we turned it into a franchise. But no appointment necessary. Just think of all the things out there and investigate other places. So one of the other things that we had along the way, I'll just show you these, and then I want to open up on the document that I sent you. And again, very happy to answer questions. Here's some things the successful USP should be. Now, I believe I'm sharing that again, Charles, so tell me if I'm not. Truly unique. Truly unique can be you. And if you're running a practice that's you or a couple of people in there, you are the most important factor in that practice ultimately. That people are going to come back to you, not the written USP. Domino's 30 minutes or it's free. You've got to have good pizzas. You've got to make the pizza. It's got to be consistent. Still, really, really important is how the person gets dealt with on the phone, at the door, wherever that interaction takes place. As a health practitioner, you are the most important person, and that person on the front desk, if it's not you, incredibly important to your patients, your clientele, that they are the right people. I've put at Loyal IT actually. There's one of the workers there, Naomi, when she was on the reception desk, I think we put down that she was the vice president in charge of first impressions. It was actually the plaque she had sitting on the front desk when you walked in. Incredibly important. So you are the ultimate USP in your business. I promise you that. So go back to that. Marketing is communication and education. That's you. Meaningful. Do they care? That's what it is. Do they actually care? Easy to understand. So, I have I don't sell it so much as a USP, but I certainly put a guarantee in place. I won't work with anybody unless they fit there's three requirements. There's got to be the potential or opportunity in the business. We've got to see that working with me gives them a good return on investment from the point of money, and also being able to do things more quickly. And my last one is, are we a good fit? It's, do we actually want to work together or not? There's a Paddy Lunn story I can tell you at another time because we'll run out. Easy to understand. People, it's got to be, yeah, I get it and I care about that. Something that will get people talking. Domino's 30 minutes or it's free, got people talking, change that business. Something that can't be easily copied. Domino's was what I refer to as table stakes. Any pizza place could then put that in place. 1 hour Photoshops. When I moved to the coast, my first thing was I had a 1 hour Photoshop at Baddo Bay, but easily copied by other people. Brand is what can't be copied. Samsung cannot copy Apple. Apple are Apple, Samsung are Samsung. When you get to brand, you are truly unique. And that's why you are truly unique, because no one can be you. And it's really important that you just work on being you. Put the guarantee in place. What's the guarantee? So I run they're basically client days where we do planning. I invite people to that. I charge a fair bit of money for that. That's $1,000 for somebody to come. You want to come? Give me a call. but I guarantee that on that day, people will get 10 times their return on investment from attending that day. So if we can't identify on $1,000 day, if I can't identify a $10,000 increase in profit, not revenue, in profit for that client, then, well, number one, I might say, I don't think you should come. Number two, if I actually accept that booking, then I'll guarantee it. If we can't identify it, I'll give you your money back. You can come to the next one for free, and I'll coach you one-on-one in between time to make sure that you get that money. So that's a guarantee. I'm putting my money up. What are you doing? Hard in health, you know, the guarantee there. Maybe it's not a money back. Maybe it's we'll continue to treat you. Maybe it's if it's an aid, not the actual service, that, you know, you'll replace it, you'll do something with it. And go back to your process. It's probably hiding in there. It doesn't have to be something incredible. So my guarantee might sound great. It is, but I won't work with somebody if I can't put that in place. That's one of the tricks learned from Bugs Burgess. If the client's not willing to move where they put their fridge, change where the door is, then they won't work with them. Very simple. HydroClean, if you look up them on the web, you'll see they have a long guarantee that I helped develop. And it's the same thing. I spoke at their conference saying, if you go in somewhere and they have like a PROMS thing, and you do the initial measurements and you don't think that that having the service of their air conditioner will make the difference to put the guarantee in place, don't service it. Simple. Tell them your air conditioner's working well. And then if they want to go ahead, that's fine, but there's no guarantee. Why does the guarantee work? Increases confidence, gives security, reduces risk, builds trust. Be pretty quick with these. This comes from the Harvard Business School report. USP, Domino's in the Netherlands. What do you do when you're at the park and you want a pizza? Well, what they did was put a door at the park. So a bit like the NRMA in New South Wales, if your car breaks down at the shopping centre, there's the NRMA meeting point. That's what they did in the park. Who do you call then to get your pizza in the park? Domino's, because you know where to meet them. And it's literally a door that you can open. You ring the doorbell on it. So there's something that makes them stand out from the park. Musts, unconditional. So if you're going to do it, you've got to mean this stuff. One of the things that Domino's learned, the franchisor I was talking about, people would get to have their pizza delivered after 32 minutes and go, no, it's okay. The franchisor insisted that they get it for free because that told the staff 30 minutes is 30 minutes. You are not allowed to be late. That is not what we do here. Imagine if you said, we'll fix your broken leg, but it's like, look, it's pretty good. It's not quite what we thought we were going to do. It's pretty good. Well, that might be a bad example. Is what we do. If we're going to do it in 30 minutes, one of our coaches in Victoria had a bathroom business where they'd renovate the bathroom in 24 hours or it was free. They did some where they didn't get it done in 24 hours. You imagine the trades in there in that time. It's free because that's what we said. An hour late's not good enough. It didn't hit the mark, so it's not good enough. This is the stuff that tells you your team what your business is about, what your purpose is about, that this is the way we do things around here. It's got to be important. It's got to be easy, easy, easy. None of this, write away in 3 different languages and have it fly around the world 3 times and we'll give you $15 back. I've had those with cashback things. And it's like, man, you're just using it for advertising. You're not really serious about this stuff. Here's what it does for you. Clear performance standards, I've already mentioned. Makes you committed. So one of the reasons I have a guarantee in place is actually for me. Because if you're going to come to a $1,000 day of mine, it better be a good day. And the pressure's on me to make that happen. I do that with clients who work with me as well. If I can't identify within the 31st 90 days how that program is going to be paid for, at a minimum, paid for within the next 12 months, I'll refund the money. Same thing. Get somebody else to coach them for 3 months, or just coach them for free until we arrive at that. But I won't take somebody on board unless I see that I can do that. So then if I become picky about, well, who are the people that I'm going to work with? What's the market that I'm best served at? My market is people who charge on an hourly rate or a fixed fee. So I end up working with lots of tradies, computer companies, architects, all those sorts of people. You guys charge on a fixed fee, a bit harder to manipulate in some ways. The example I was going to give, I can't tell you who it is, but he was an exercise physiologist who worked with one of my colleagues. And really what he did was build a business that people trusted, and he set out to, excuse me for coughing so much. He switched his mind from his very focused on being a fantastic health provider, and that was his purpose. But then he understood that he could do more by building a business. He could do more by getting the other people into his practice that could provide the services and building a bigger business. And he happened to make more money along the way, which he then decided that he enjoyed. Excuse me. So you can do both. He's made a lot of money, but he's still very focused on that. Practice has to do that. Builds customer loyalty, lowers resistance. That's our last QR code there. What will make you stand out from the crowd? I've managed to run out of time again. That's the last QR. What will you do to stand out from the crowd? Now, as I said, there's the quick USP and guarantee. Please also, Charles will, I think the Slido will be there for you to do the comments on tonight. We really appreciate those. It makes a big difference. Charles will put this up, and then immediately after we get these results, what am I going to put in? What will make me stand out from the crowd? Well, actually, so my focus is results, as I'm sure your focus is as well. Results for the client ultimately. Then once a couple of people have done that, we'll put the Slido up to do the questionnaire for tonight. You've got the quick USP. That's designed to get you thinking. The handout for tonight, please email us. We don't just send things out to people, and it's IP that I don't normally give away, is the full USP document that you can go through. It's many pages. You got to think about it. You can do it quickly. I think you take a good half hour to start with, and then you go back to it and think more and more. If you want to spend 20 minutes with me going over it, my pleasure to do that with you. That's what we're here to do. All of that, I think the USP document is an absolute necessity in every business to start with, to get clear on who's your target market, what's the market segment, to niche it down if that's what serves you, to get to understand what you're there to do, and then you can build from that, and you go back and build it into your sales process, whatever you want to call it, how people make inquiries with you, how they become patients with you, and take it all the way through and focus on then delivering on that purpose by building those things in place. The last thing is 3 lessons. Please take the time to write down 3 blinding flashes of the obvious, aha moments, 3 ideas you've got from tonight. They're only important if you take action with them. From what we've done tonight, what actions will you take in your business, in your practice, to move it forward, to make money for yourself, to get you where you want to go, to help your patients out, to help your team out, because that's it's all about us and the wider community. And if we're healthy, we can do more to help the wider community. I think that's me done for the night. Charles?
Great. Thank you, Marcus. Another very informative session, and really appreciate you using all of your practical examples and how that applies to the allied health sector. I think that's really useful. So as Marcus mentioned, I have just launched the evaluation survey for this evening on Slido, so it's via the same link. Thank you for your interaction on Slido via our polls, and obviously typing your questions in the chat. We always appreciate that interaction. Of course, we love your feedback via the evaluation survey, but it's also how I capture your attendance to issue you with a certificate. So if you would like a certificate, if you could please fill out that survey, that would be fantastic. As I mentioned at the start of the session, it is being recorded, and we'll get that up in our education library in the next couple of days if you'd like to rewatch, or if you have a colleague who couldn't attend and would like to watch it. You'll also see in the chat that I've posted a link to our online forms. So if you do have any follow-up questions for Marcus outside of the session, you can just submit them via that form. What the process there is, I then provide that to Marcus and he'll provide a video response. Once I have that response, I'll email it out to all of the registrants. So please, at any stage, feel free to use that. I'll keep an eye on it and flick those through to Marcus. That's pretty much wrapping us up for this evening. Our final session and our fifth session of the series will be on Tuesday, the 28th of June. So please register for this one if you're yet to do so. It'll also be in the evening, same time at 6:30. And if there's some worksheets, Marcus, I'll make sure I send those out to everyone in advance. Yes. Any other final comments, Marcus, before we wrap up?
No, look, just again, there's Casey's email address. It can be .com, doesn't have to be .au, doesn't make any difference. It's the same thing. So there'll be the USP handout will be, so that's the full USP document. It's about 8 pages to fill in. Email Casey, she'll get that out to you. I'll only send the Harvard Business School document if you ask for it, because I just don't want to inundate people with things that they don't want. So please just put Harvard or something. I mean, with this, you can just type downloads in the subject. You don't have to type anything else to Casey unless you want to say hello. That's fine. She'll know what it is. If you put Harvard in there, I'll let her know that that means that that's got to be sent to you as well. If you want to find out about coming to my events, just again get in contact. We've got one coming up on the 23rd of June. It's a nice day. We have some other events throughout the year. Again, there's the appointments with me are there to help you guys. They're not a sales call. They're simply, if you've got some questions or if you want to spend some time refining this stuff, happy to do it, as I'm sure you're happy to talk to people about what you do. So please make use of them. It's fine.
Wonderful. And just as we're wrapping up, I just see someone has submitted a question through forms. So thank you. We'll get that to Marcus and we'll put him to work with a response. So
yeah, give me more of them. I like being on camera. You should know that by now.
All right. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, Marcus. And we hope
Charles.
to see you at the next session and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.